Thank you all for joining us for this AI&Me podcast. We hold this podcast every Saturday at 2 p.m. Indian time and 5:30 p.m. Korean time. This is our online meetup to discuss the latest AI trends. This is sponsored by Textify AI. We build awesome language technologies. Right now, we are building an AI-powered writing tool, AI-powered reading tool, and AI-powered thinking tool. Please find more about us at www.textify.ai. Let's jump right into it. These are our discussion panel, Vivek, Suji, and myself. Vivek, let's start with you. Can you give us a quick introduction?
All right, so welcome everybody. I am Vivek. I work as a machine learning engineer, and I have been working in this field for over 3 years now. And I am also a Kaggle master. Whenever I have time, I participate on Kaggle, and I'm also very active on Kaggle discussions. So I am looking forward to learn more about AI and to discuss more about the breakthroughs in AI in recent times. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Vivek. Just one thing, the mic on your side is a little too loud. So maybe if you can increase the distance between the mic and you. Let's move on to Suji. Suji, can we start with your introduction?
Yeah, hello, my name is Julie, and welcome everyone. I hope this session would be helpful. I studied computational linguistics at University of Stuttgart, located in Germany. And now I'm working as a NLP advisor at Textify and computational linguist in Korea.
Thank you, Suji. Let me start with my introduction. My name is Chirag, and I am the CEO at Textify AI. Previously, I worked at Hyundai Motors, and I've lived 80 years of my life in South Korea. Let's move on. Let's start with the AI news for this week. The first news that we want to cover is about AI in defense. A bunch of AI researchers have claimed that they can predict the course of a hypersonic missile. Now, for the people in our discussion panel who are not aware of what a hypersonic missile is, this is a kind of missile that can fly 5 to 10 times faster than the speed of sound. So it's a breaking edge technology, cutting edge. Very few countries actually even have this kind of missile. So if I can name a few, Russia has one, and they've proven its use in the Ukraine-Russia war that is currently going on. And also China is one of the countries that is investing a lot in this technology. Now, this idea of using AI for defense, it's quite controversial. And if you guys have any opinion on using AI for defense, we'd love to proceed with that. So as of now, this is a technology that is a lot of countries are using that are hoping to use that technology to develop the weapons of the future. And at some point, it seems that the modern warfare, maybe 10, 15 years from now, will not be fought by humans, but we will have leveraged a lot of technologies, maybe between machines and machines. And the winning country will be the one which has the best machines that can win wars for them. Moving on to the second news, Google has recently banned deepfake generating AI from Colab. Just to do a little recap on deepfake, Vivek, would you like to help us understand what a deepfake generating AI is?
All right, so I think the name is pretty intuitive. It's like deepfake generating content that is not real, that is fake. And in recent times, AI has been really good to generate fake content, especially images that are very realistic. So it's very hard to tell the difference between a real one and a fake one. So what the title says is Google has something called Colab. So Colab is is it's like a Jupyter notebook. For those of you who don't know like what Jupyter notebook is, it's like is a platform from Google where they give like free GPUs and to code and to train your model. So they have this collab. Looks like Google has banned people from writing or training an AI that is related to deepfake generating. So I think that's what the content says.
Right. So just to give a little, more information, or just to add a few more details to that, I think deepfake has been a concern for a lot of people because you can use this technology to create videos of people, maybe famous personalities like Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin, and you can make a video where they are actually saying something. You can, make a video where they are, addressing a large population and saying something, and people might even believe that is true. So a lot of people have been surprised by how good this technology is and how bad some of its consequences can be. And I think that is one of the reasons why Google has banned deepfake from its Colab notebook. But I think there has been also some cases where individuals were blackmailed using deepfake videos. So they would take somebody's face and they would put it on a video that isn't, it's kind of like a Photoshop of the 21st century. So you can take somebody's face and put it on a video and make it seem like they're saying or doing something that you want them to do. Let's move on to the next news. This one is very interesting. Gary Marcus, he is the professor. He was a professor of psychology and neuroscience at New York University. He also authored the book Rebooting AI, and he also founded a Robust AI and Geometrical Intelligence. He is criticizing Elon Musk's AGI prediction. AGI, which stands for Artificial General Intelligence. So this is the tweet by Elon Musk. 2029 feels like a pivotal year. I'd be surprised if we don't have AGI by then. Hopefully people on Mars as well. Suji, would you like to start by explaining us what an AGI is and how multimodal AI could be a way to leading into AGI?
Okay, thank you. Actually, what I prepared isn't really about AGI, but in terms of multimodal AI, it would be in the same direction. So what does multimodal AI means? Until recently, AI has been focused only one area, either vision, which just covers image part, or NLP, more about linguistics or language part of human. But recently, one of the mainstream in AI is that using different kind of information and combine them and make AI to handle it. So for example, one of the example would be DALL-E. The most recent one is DALL-E 2.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, so if you put keyword as in the text, then it creates image, something like so for example,
so it can kind of take the text and then also build the art. So I think this is something interesting that this is also very interesting how it can take one set of ideas from one set of field and also bring it to the other set of fields. Kind of like the human brain. The human brain is also quite connected. We have the left hemisphere, and then we have the right hemisphere, and then we have the corporal callosium, bridging those two gaps. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So this is the prediction that Gary Marcus has made, and he's made a $100,000 bet for the same. He says that by 2029, AI will not be able to watch a movie and tell you accurately what is going on. Now, again, the problem is it's still a qualitative task. What does accurately mean? Anyways, he's saying it cannot tell you who the characters are, what are their conflicts and motivations. What's your take on this, Vivek?
Okay, so I think Susie explained it pretty well. Just to add on this, so AI for now, like most of the performances that we have from AI is in a very narrow set of domains. So what I mean by that is like, let's say you have an AI that is like really good at looking at images and telling you whether this is the image of a cat or a dog, or maybe you have a different AI which is really good at detecting different sound, taking sound as an input and telling you, what like who is in that particular clip. But what ACI is like is it's just like human. Like we are humans. We are good at like seeing pictures, telling what's in the picture. We are also good at listening to sound and then telling what kind of sound is this. We're also good at like looking at videos. So we are just one human, but we are good at multiple things. So what the goal we want to achieve from AGI is that we want to make an AI that is also good at multiple things, not just as one narrow domain. We want to generalize it.
Is it really possible though? Because I think the problem is not just is it possible, but also is it possible within our lifetime by maybe in the next 10 years or 7 years?
Okay, to be honest, I mean, what I feel like is like intelligence, because AI is like artificial intelligence. So intelligence, even if when you talk about intelligence, even like human intelligence is very narrow. Like for example, I'm a machine learning engineer. Let's say I have, so I have knowledge and skills related to AI, but when you talk about, let's say, maybe art or something, I don't know anything about that field. So even like my intelligence, like human intelligence, is narrowed. So if the human intelligence itself is narrow, I don't think we can make an AI that can generalize and have intelligence like from different domains. I think it's going to be like really, really challenging, and I'm pretty like pessimistic about like AGI coming into life in our lifetime. If it does, good, but I'm not sure if we would be able to achieve AGI. Like AGI is basically making an artificial human, and that I think is it's very, very difficult.
That's interesting, but I actually saw a graph a couple years ago, and it said the pace of development in AI is picking up, but then there's going to be an inflection point. There's going to be a time somewhere 2025 or 2026 when AI can actually create data for itself and train itself. And at that point, it's just going to be an inflection point, right? Like for now, it's the humans who are actively training these models, and we have to look at, we have to even code some of these models. But there's going to be an inflection point where all of this data and all of this training and all of the, reinforcement learning or supervised learning, all of these will be taken care of by the AI. And at that point, after that point, the process of development of AGI might become faster, right? Like for example, if you look at the communication technologies, right? We had telephones until like 1890s, right? Almost it was almost like 100 years before mobile phones came around, right? But the moment they came around in 1990s, you have them, 2000, you have digital phones, then you have smartphones, and now we are moving all the way to VR. So the pace of development, actually, there was an inflection point around 2000 when things were developing fast. There was a lot of people working in the ecosystem. That could be the kind of thing that we should be looking forward in the coming years.
Right, totally agree on that. I think even if we look at AI in the last 10, 15 years, I mean, AI has been there for some time now, but AI really picked up, or when this neural net and backpropagation algorithm came into play. So all of a sudden, like an AI that was giving like okay kind of performance, all of a sudden it gave like really, really good performance. So we might need a breakthrough like that if AGI, if it really has, to come into life in our lifetime. So yeah, definitely some really, really important breakthroughs should take place if AGI is to come to life.
At the same time, I was also reading this book And the same book, it said, the term AI is quite unfortunate, right? Like when you think of airplane, right? Airplane is kind of inspired by birds, but we don't call it artificial bird. We call it by its own name, right? It's a different technology. It has different outcomes than a bird. But, so again, you have birds and then you have airplanes. The same way, intelligence is the thing that is inspiring AI, but to call it artificial or something that is not real is kind of, delimiting the potential of this technology. Just to put it into more, just to put it better, I would say that maybe AI isn't really the term we should be using for this kind of thing. AGI or artificial general intelligence. We should be saying something like intelligence, because it is inspired by intelligence, and the outcome might also just be intelligence or something beyond intelligence.
I think like one of the things there is artificial in front of intelligence is because like one way of looking at artificial is human made. It's like so I think that's what it means when we say like artificial intelligence is an intelligence made by humans.
But what if in the future AI could make its own data set and train itself? So maybe a better term would be non-biological intelligence, because biological means us, and non-biological means anything that is not machines or anything that comes in that category.
Right. I think that will surely happen. Like even now, like there are a lot of research and developments going on in a field where like AI is able to create its own data set, is able to train itself, and is able to give like really good performance. So that is happening now and will surely happen more and more in the future. And when that happens, maybe people might change the name from AI to something called like machine intelligence. I think that is like better suited.
Right. Well, here, just to read the second point, they say AI will not be able to read a novel and reliably answer questions about the plot, character, conflict, motivation, etc. As key will be going beyond the literal text, as they explain in the book. Interestingly, these are the kind of things that we are actively targeting in our research at Textify AI, also NLP in general. Suji, would you like to take a comment on this?
Well, as well, I understand both of you like opinion, and because we're talking about future and possibility to be discovered and discussed a lot, but from my experience, I think still there will be important part of people, because yes, we do need a lot of data for training, but also it has to be right. So
right.
So it has to be about the right quality. And also one of the things I'm concerned these days is about the AI and its ethics. So if we really consider that part, then I'm pretty sure that there will be something for human, even there is a real working like artificial intelligence.
Right. So I guess we will have to wait until 2029. That's 7 years from now, to actually see who wins the bet. Is it Elon Musk or Gary Marcus? Moving on to our second news. Zoom has received a backlash for its emotion detecting AI. Just to give you a little more background on this, Zoom recently came up with a feature called Zoom IQ, which will be able to help sales people improve their pitches based on the emotions of the call participants. Now, of course, one of the key concerns that people have with this is that this could be used by the people, by companies in hiring or financial decisions, such as whether to grant a loan to an applicant or not. And of course, AI ethics, AI inequality, and biases, it's rampant in the AI world. And so this could just be one of those things that could make it a little more obvious. Again, Zoom said these are not intended to be used in employment decisions, but are purely based on research that is available in the public domain. Now, these are the things that the Zoom IQ will track, such as the talk and listen ratio. So if you're talking on Zoom, how much are you talking and how much are you listening? The talking speed of the person who's speaking. Filler words such as and long, such as long spiel, such as a monologue. How long is the person speaking at a time? This could be like 100 words, 500 words, or if they're really into it, maybe 1,000, 5,000 words. Patience of the speaker, how patiently they are waiting for their turn to come, whether they're asking engaging questions or not, and a bunch of other things. This, again, has the potential to revolutionize how we interact with people, especially through digital technologies. But again, there are certain backlashes that it's facing from the community.
Not for me.
All right, let's move on. So we are done with our first segment, and the next segment, before I start that, I will just quickly introduce what it is. It's AI job or no job. What does the future of workplace look like? All right, let's get right into it. Will AI compete with humans for jobs? Or will AI be our perfect partner at work? Is this the ultimate evolution? Will AI that is used for hiring, will it prefer AIs over humans? There are a couple of things that is happening to the market. There are certain fields that will have more jobs because of AI, and there are certain fields that will just become automated, and there will be massive job reductions. CB Insights predict that after the fourth industrial revolution, we will be able to generate so much data that AI can power the fifth and the last industrial revolution. We will have plenty of leisure time. Machines will take care of everything, and we'll have the perfect life that we dreamed of. The impact of AI and automation on job replacement: 50% of the jobs in the US can be potentially replaced by AI or automated. In the jobs that can be replaced by robots, 60% of mail carriers can be replaced. Log workers, 94% of drill press operators, 99% of insurance underwriters, and 97% of farm laborers can be replaced by robots. These are the industries that are actively investing in AI. And of course, the biggest one is software information technologies. Second among these is internet, telecommunication, and all the way down the road, we have entertainment. So let's start with our discussion panel. Again, you guys have already been introduced. What's your take on this? AI job or no job? Let's start with Suji instead. Suji, can we have your opinion on this?
Okay, so can you guys hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I don't know what happened all of a sudden. Okay. So like I was saying, that some people believe that AI is going to replace humans and going to take the jobs, while some people they believe that AI is not going to replace them. It's actually going to work with them. It's actually going to do jobs that humans don't like doing. And I am on the second half of this debate that AI is going to work with us. It's actually going to make our work easier, and it's going to take away all the boring and routine jobs, the jobs that actually don't require us to think, because we are humans. Like we should be doing jobs that require us to think, that require us to use our creativity, that require us to use our common sense, the things that machines don't have. So if your job doesn't require you to think much, if your job doesn't require you to use your senses, doesn't require you to be creative, then yes, AI surely will take away those jobs. But if if your job, requires all these qualities that we have, like as a human, then AI can never take away that jobs. AI will definitely come into that paradigm, will work with you, but will not completely be able to replace you.
Right. So as we can go over these slides, right? Will AI compete with humans for jobs? And there are certain jobs I think that have already been automated. I think I can look at a lot of McDonald's around the world that are using kiosks instead of a person to check for checkout. We also have a lot of automation happening in the restaurant industry as well as the education industry. So that could be just come down to the unit metrics. How much does it cost to have an AI do the task compared to a human? At the same time, a lot of jobs are becoming quite enjoyable. AI and machines in general have replaced the hard labor that it takes to achieve certain tasks. So if you think of what it would take to build like 100 years from now, we actually had to do a lot of this the construction physically, but now a lot of this can be a lot of manual labor can be replaced by machines. And the same thing happens in the white collar space as well. Before computers were around, everything was done manually. You would make records and keep those records, and recall those records, bring them out, and go through them manually. That would take a lot of human labor, and there are always chances of the records going out of fashion, getting destroyed. But with machines, we were able to recall those values quickly. If we had to make some changes on those values, we can quickly edit them as well. That was not possible before. I think the same thing would happen with a lot of those expertise that we consider expertise right now, but AIs could actually work alongside with humans to help them either grow their expertise or act as complementary partners to help people achieve expertise in fields where they don't have expertise before.
I agree with Vivek. I mean, AI can be beneficial to some person or like to a really certain industry, but also it could be harmful because it can take away your job. So I think we have to figure out how AI can help people not to threaten our lives or other very fundamental things of our life.
Have you seen any have you experienced any kind of automation around you in recent time? Maybe where certain technology was able to replace workers. I think I've seen plenty of examples, starting with kiosks, where before you would have a dedicated list of dedicated line of people helping you check out at fast food restaurants, but now you just have kiosks here and there. Maybe we have these checkout systems as well. I think Amazon is now developing those AI Amazon Go services, which is using computer vision to look at what you're buying and then make you pay directly through your wallet, so you don't even have to do a checkout. Have you experienced anything like that, maybe in your surroundings?
Recently, I'm working on building a chatbot for my customers. I mean, my company's customers. So, for example, if you have to talk to the teller, like instead of talking to the bank teller, you can talk to AI, and so even after business hours. So I think it's really helping a lot. But also, like banks or any company is utilizing chatbot for like assistance, then you will save a lot of money and human labor. Also,
definitely, I think the service industry is completely prime for this, right? I think AI assistant bots have been around. You think of Siri and you think of like Google Assistant. They have been around, and they're doing an incredible job. Even though they're free and none of us are paying for them, but they have all this immense potential to help people in service. How about you, Vivek? Have you seen any kind of automation around you?
Okay, I think this is something that you already mentioned, that the coffee shops, they are being, like not completely, but like there are machines coming into play. Like they are helping the people at the coffee shops. So this is something that I noticed a lot while I was in Korea, and I think this is going to increase more and more in the future. Another thing that I noticed is like. I think this is already into play. So the warehouses of the e-commerce companies, like let's say Coupang or Amazon, I mean, the packaging and everything, like this thing has already been automated. And I think now these companies are working like how to, like how can they automate even the delivery process. So I think this is the spot. Some parts of the world have been experimenting with like drone delivery or like, robot delivery. And I think this is going to continue and will develop more and more. So I think this area, like this delivery thing, will be automated, like in incoming future.
Well, that's interesting, but I'm kind of torn between different ideas here, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Good because of course AI can take load off these workers. I think there was a lot of news recently how during the pandemic these workers were working, because there's such a surge in demand. These workers had to work, maybe 60, 70 hours a week to meet those demands. Many of these people, I think there was like a couple of them who even died during duty, on duty. So maybe AI can kind of take the load off their shoulders when required. But again, as well as it's quite a bad news as well for these workers, because this is unskilled labor in some sense, the lowest kind of skilled labor, maybe. And if these kind of workers are replaced, they're not going to end up building AI. They're kind of torn or taken away from the lowest strata of skilled work. So I'm not sure how they would, what kind of work will they go to next. I think at the same time, over these times, there has also been a debate about UBI, or universal basic income. And as we discussed, probably in this slide, maybe AI will lead to a whole new kind of productivity, right? So just to give you a historical reference, humans never had enough leisure time. If you look at our lives like 100, 200, or 500 years ago, we always were supposed to work and work and work. We never really had that kind of leisure where you sit down and go watch a movie, or life was just around that. You had to go to work 8 hours in the farmland, then walk 1 or 2 hours in the morning to get water, and then prepare your house at night. But now we have significantly more leisure time, and I think following the same pace, we may once again have a utopia. We might be heading towards a utopia where at least the most skilled ones among us will have enough time on their hands to indulge in a lot of different kind of leisure activities. And so again, the skilled ones could be taxed higher because they're able to earn more because of their skills, and those taxes or those kind of income that could lead to income for everybody. The idea of universal basic income will have a basic income for everybody, enough to sustain them, even if they have a job or not. What's your take on this, Vivek?
I think so AI is definitely coming to play. Let's say if we talk about the delivery process, let's say it's fully automated. Like now, machines are doing the delivery. So there will definitely be a lot of humans which will be disposed, like displaced. So for those humans, I think like they have to be retrained. I am in very much positive about that. Humans, I mean, like one great thing about being human is that you can be retrained. So if your previous job was, let's say, taken by machines because it was like very routine, like if you think about like this delivery thing, it doesn't require a lot of thinking, to be honest. It's just like taking the product from point A to point B. Like it's not much of a creative work or a work that requires your mental thinking capacity. So if those kind of jobs surely will be taken by AI. So you need to look for jobs and retrain for jobs that actually going to use your human qualities, like your thinking capabilities, your creative outputs. So that UBI thing, instead of giving them, completely to people, I think that can be used to retrain them, because retraining is also gonna, is gonna be like expensive. So that amount could be used to retrain them for like some other jobs.
Right. So I guess there will be jobs that are going to get replaced. And companies are fighting for survival these days as well, and they will look for every penny that they can squeeze, either through out of their workers or by having more efficiency through using new technologies. What's your take on this as well, Suji?
I think it really depends on how we use AI in our life. Even with we have really well developed technology, it might then at a certain point we might really don't have to work. We can do whatever we want, and AI will do all the jobs what humans use it to do. But we aren't really prepared for that kind of society. So I think there are really a lot of things to be studied and explored. And also, I think we have to prepare our society system as well. So, for example, as Vivek mentioned, we can retrain people, or we can delay the application of newly developed technology.
Right. I think that's a very interesting point you brought up, Suji. Society, right? Is our society, not humans, but a group of human society, is it ready for AI and ready for the automation? And at the same time, I would like to point out we have inequality in our society. There are people who are skilled and very skilled, and there are people who are also not skilled enough to there is a massive skill gap that exists in our society. And how would how would we go ahead with that, knowing that there will be automation technologies in the future? I think another thing I would like to point out is this idea of the ultimate evolution. We have started our evolution, maybe as a chimpanzee someplace in Africa, and all the way moving up to a human, and that now we are on the process of being made obsolete by machines. What would you guys like? How would you guys like to comment on that?
I think it's about adapting. Like when humans like first came into existence, we were like very different, but over time we evolved. So like Darwin said, I mean, the best survival of the fittest. So you have to learn to adapt to your environment, to the things that are happening in your environment around the world. So if AI and machines, they are, they're going to coexist with us. So we have to learn to adapt. We have to learn to live with them and use them for our convenience. And we also have to be very, very careful that, it's like we controlling the machines, not they controlling, because they can do it, but we have to be like very, very careful on that matter.
It's very interesting. You brought this point of adaptation. Interestingly, this is back in the 90s. There was this guy, very famous. He was a mathematics professor at one of the best universities in the US. I just don't recall his name or his university, but he has his pseudonym, and he was called the Unibomber. And he would go into universities and he would bomb. He would go into every university where they had an active AI program, and this is the 90s, right? This is way before neural networks and way before the kind of AI that we have today. But in the 90s, there was this guy. He would go into universities, and he was quite well skilled, well talented, and he was even a professor of mathematics. And so he would go into these universities and bomb those universities. And he had his nickname, the Unibomber. And when they started doing more research on who this guy is, what are his intentions, it became more clear that this is one of those guys who were kind of in their mind fighting for other people against automation. That he kind of predicted like from in the 90s, going like 30 years from now, AI will be responsible for these kind of actions, maybe in the really long term. So this is the kind of prediction that a lot of thinkers, all the way from Elon Musk and Bill Gates, they have, is that AI could be the last invention that humans will make, both in a good and a bad way. Because the good way is that then we don't have to go out and invent anything. AI will pretty much invent everything for us. Or it could be the last invention that we make, because that is kind of like the last thing we'll ever live to make, because then machines will take over humans, and then we'll just be kind of like animals, and be treated like how humans treat animals. So just to point out, there is also a lot of pessimism in the general public regarding AI. So what would you like to comment on that, Vivek?
I think you put it like pretty nicely. So yeah, there's nothing more to comment.
Cool. Let's move on to the next slide here. The idea of AI being used for hiring, and the whole idea is that of course there's a lot of HR tech that is coming up these days. Hiring for a new job or position is incredibly hard. I've sat through like maybe almost 500 to 1,000 interviews, trying to understand who the candidate is, what their background is, what kind of interest they have, and how does our organization meet their interest and background. This is quite a laborious process, and AI can help in this process. And I think HR tech is already using a lot of that. The problem again is twofold. First, of course, there is AI bias, which is depending on how the data set is set up, the AI will display their bias in that. The other thing is, of course, if everything just boils down to numbers, right? If 5-10 years from now, if we end up in this world where everything is nothing but numbers, then I think our decisions will also just be influenced by numbers, and that is kind of taking the humanness out of us. Do you want to take a comment on that, Vivek?
Right. So I think like even today, like top tech companies, because they receive a lot of applicants from all around the world. So filtering them, like if a human has to do it, it's gonna take a lot of time. So they have like machines doing that filtering. But like you said, machines, they are biased. I mean, depending on the data they are trained with, their outputs, their decisions are biased, and which is not good, because like let's say it based on that biasness, a very well qualified candidate could be it could be out of the hiring process. So this is something that is one area of research that is very active and will continue to be very active in the future to remove the biasness from machines. Yeah.
All right. Let's quickly move on to the slides now. I think we are coming close to our finishing time. These are the industries that are going to have more jobs because of AI. And these are the industries that will have less jobs because of AI. Now, of course, in our previous talk, we showed how healthcare will be revolutionized because of AI, mostly because healthcare is one of those inelastic things that, we cannot live without. We want healthcare, if every time we get, everyone who gets old needs some kind of assistance. We do want to live longer. We do want to live. And so healthcare is something that AI will completely revolutionize. Other things such as scientific and technical fields, yes, I think there has been examples how AI can be used for even doing drug discovery, how to make new medicines using AI. Communication, yes, I think even ourselves, we are working on an AI writing tool to help people write better and fluently. Hospitality, I guess, as well, and education. The fields that will have fewer jobs, in the coming 10, 20 years, because of AI, automation, is of course manufacturing. I think as a society, we will have less manufacturing jobs than before. Of course, transportation, public administration and defense, construction, all these services that require human labor, especially some kind of low-skilled human labor, are more likely to be automated. Any comments on that, Suji?
I think I have mentioned about this earlier, so maybe not.
All right. Let's move on to our next slide. This idea of the fifth industrial revolution. We have the first industrial revolution that was set up by mechanization and steam power. The steam engines that came around helping people become more productive, at least in giant labor requiring tasks such as transportation using trains. The second industrial revolution around the 1870s, around mass productions and assembly lines. I think it was Ford himself, Henry Ford, who brought this idea of mass productions to have an assembly line and make people specializing in one set of tasks, so that you can have specialization among people and the whole process becomes more productive. 1970s, we have some kind of information. We have the birth of information technologies, machines and automation. 2010 or today, from now onwards, we have this kind of IoT-based, network-based, internet, smartphones, all of this kind of automation, machines that are smart, they're around us. And then finally, all the data that is coming from these machines will lead to this kind of AI or AGI. And that probably will change the face of blue and white collar jobs of the future. Finally, let's also go into the last slide that we have here, the impact of AI on automation of jobs. Again, 50% of the jobs in the US can be replaced by AI in the coming years. As Vivek said, reskilling and upskilling is always a task that we should, as a society, look towards, because people want a job. I think there have been studies where people who are unemployed haven't been able to be productive, haven't been able to contribute to the society. That kind of affects their self-esteem, their position in the society. So yes, as a society, we should be pushing towards reskilling these people, upskilling them. But the challenge is, will there be enough effort? Will we be able to upskill that many people? Because we're talking about 50% of the labor force. We have to go back into schools and training programs to come and become more qualified. Also, we can see a lot of people in different professions will get replaced, and the majority of farm laborers will be replaced by robots in the coming years. We have log workers and people who are operating drill presses. They will also more likely or more or less likely to get replaced by robots. Now, finally, I would like to go back to this one slide where we discussed about AGI, and just want to take each of you guys last take on this. 2029, will we have AGI? And if not, what kind of AI can we have by that time? Let's start with Vivek.
Okay, so I'm actually pessimistic about this thing. I don't think that we'll have the real AGI by 2029. That is too little of a time for AGI to come to life. But I do believe that AI will be able to expand, we'll go from narrow AI to sort of less narrow AI. So the multimodal AI thing, which is just is kind of it's giving good performance in certain domains. So I think by 2029, this we'll have more and more of multimodal AI, which can take let's say text as an input and give you all kinds of output, in terms of text, in terms of email. Similarly, it can take let's say emails as an input and give you different kind of outputs. So I think those kind of AI, we're gonna have more and more of that, and very less of single AI. Yeah.
All right. Let's take Suji's take on this. Suji, you can start with your comment.
I think, I mean, in general, I agree with Vivek. Considering the speed of recently like developing AI, there will be something like more like AI. We like something we have imagined or displayed in science fiction or movies, but still there will be some like limitations fulfilled by 2029. So hopefully there will be healthy and like human helping beneficial AI by 2029.
Right. And I think I personally am quite optimistic. I see this as, maybe around 2025, there might be an inflection point. And, by 2029, we might have an AGI or a truly powerful AI that can compete with humans in fields of intellectual domains, also physical domains and all. Well, that's all for us today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll hope to see you next week. Bye.